All right, good morning. I hope everyone can hear me. Let's see. Just checking on. Oh, great. Awesome. Thank you. All right, we're just going to wait another minute or two until we have a few more people. There, number of folks are trickling in, so let's just give it a minute. While we are waiting for folks to arrive, love to ask where folks are from. Where are you calling from on this beautiful day? Is it nighttime? Is it morning? Late night? Um, love to love to get a sense of who's joining us today. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's give it another minute or so. Welcome, welcome, welcome. See more and more folks are making their way in. Uh, let's Let me ask that question again for folks that have joined. In the chat, you can always share where you are dialing in from, what country. Maryland, yeah. Netherlands, love it. Thank you for joining late at night. I think it's probably dinner time for you all. Crested Butte, excellent. I'm actually in Colorado as well. All right, I think we should get started. We've got a lot to cover. I think you all are going to be very excited by my guest today. So if everyone is ready to roll, let's just jump right in. So let me start. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Build with Mapbox Leaders in Location session for the real estate industry. This is day 2 of Build, so super excited for you to all be here. I am Andy Hawks, a senior enterprise account manager at Mapbox, and I have the privilege of working with many Mapbox customers in the real estate sector that are building with location tools in ways that are transforming the industry. So one of these amazing customers is Land ID, a team that has been building with Mapbox for over a decade, and who I look to as a thought leader and source of inspiration in this space. We're going to learn today how innovative this company has been, and you're going to be able to meet with and hear from the founder and CEO. So super excited. Um, and Steve Roberson is the founder and CEO of Land ID. And in today's session, Steve and I will chat about how Land ID builds with Mapbox to create advanced yet accessible location solutions for professionals within the real estate sector and beyond. We're going to look back at the evolution of Land ID and what has contributed to their success, as well as looking ahead to what's emerging in the real estate industry more broadly to discuss trends and opportunities for how location tools can add value for landowners, developers, investors, and some new profiles that Land ID is approaching. Just to do a little housekeeping, this is a 45-minute session. We're going to save some time for Q&A towards the end, so please share your questions. You can drop them right into the Zoom Q&A, the chat window, and then when we have Q&A, we will take a peek at all the questions and have Steve respond. So one last thing is we have captions available for several languages. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Zoom, but if you look down at the bottom, you can actually put captions on based on your language. So with all that, let's get started. Excited to talk real estate and location. So Steve, let's kick things off with some context. Can you start by telling us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to start Land ID? Let's see, where's my guest? Steve, are you backstage getting coffee? There he is.
I like to build up the anticipation, Andy.
I think so. Well, the crowd is just at a feverish pitch. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about Land ID?
Sure. So, Plan ID, we're a web and mobile-based mapping application that's focused on real estate and specifically and historically, we've been focused on land, hence the name Land ID, and allowing people to understand the story that each piece of property has to tell in an easy way to consume that, and then allowing that person to tell that story in their own way to the public, to their clients, to prospective buyers. So we've had a lot of success over the past decade, expanding our user base and expanding into all sorts of genres of real estate, whether it's selling properties, representing buyers, people doing investments, even land flipping. That's a big thing I found out about a couple of years ago, and certainly property management. So for me, it's really interesting when we come across a use case that I never imagined being utilized on Land ID. But back to the centralized question, what do we focus on? It's supplying people with in-depth information on as many properties as possible across the United States and making that data easy for them to consume to understand the story about that property and what makes it unique.
That's so cool. I mean, it's such a niche business. One you saw the need and have addressed and have grown successfully. How did you get interested in this? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So my background is I'll keep it as concise as possible, but it's best to start with the Steve origin story back in college. So I went to Baylor University in Waco, Texas, and I started off as a history major, and I wasn't very good at that. And I started taking
Mhm.
geography courses, and I kept making A's in geography classes, and so I changed my major to geography. And what I like to tell people all the time is if your son or daughter comes home from college and they tell you they're going to major in geography, don't worry, there's hope. I do consider it one level above basket weaving, but it's worked out for me over the years, and so I was always interested in geography, how people perceive space, how they manage space, how they utilize space, and I was always interested in real estate. So in graduate school, I focused all of my directed research around GIS and real estate because I thought it was always fascinating that for an industry whose little cliche term is location, location, location,
Mhm.
maps seem to always be an afterthought when it came to marketing, understanding properties that were for sale or to manage properties. It just always seemed as though the GIS world was an afterthought in real estate. So that was fascinating to me. And so out of graduate school, I started working as a GIS specialist for a big commercial real estate group in Austin, Texas, doing mapping for tenant reps. So that's where, Home Depot comes in and they're like, we need to put it in another store, show us your top 5 places. And we'd run
Mhm.
trade areas, demographics, things like that. Um, that was right before the whole real estate crash in like 2008. So I got laid off with like half of the company after a couple of years and decided that I wanted to take my fate into my own hands as much as possible. I convinced my father to give me a $10,000 loan, bought a computer, bought my GIS software, and I just started making maps for the other commercial real estate folks. They got laid off with me because they still, had their clients. Uh,
Right.
I then, got a job as a GIS specialist doing wind farm analysis, and thoroughly hated that job. That's one of those ones where I was driving into work every day, and I wondered if it would be better to drive into the tree as opposed to going to work. So I would spend mornings there writing down contact information for brokers and agents who sold farms and ranches, because what I realized is that with the farm and ranch genre of real estate, that there was a real need for really good mapping. If we go back to that idea of location, 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 it's even more emphasized in a farm and ranch environment where we have a large space for sale, and it becomes not location, location, location as it is, around a city. It becomes, the location of the main house, the location of the natural spring. It becomes location analysis and spatial awareness within the property, within the space that they're selling. So I would write down various brokers around Texas and surrounding areas, their phone numbers and names, and I would go out to the parking garage at lunch, and I would cold call them and ask them if I could make maps for them for free. So that's how I started, and I got a few clients that way, and I did that for several years, and eventually, by doing that over several years, I understood the pain points that these people had, and decided that it would be smart of me to create a DIY component for what I'm providing services wise, and that's where Land ID originated. Is
Right.
trying to get it to where they could build maps and it would actually look like I built a map for them.
Yeah. And that's exciting. Well, you touched on kind of my question is help us understand what is it you're providing for the customer, right? Who is that customer? You started to touch on investors or developers or farmers and appraisers, but help us better understand. Give us a sense of what you're offering. What's the value? What does that use case look like, and how are you addressing that from within your platform?
Yeah, I actually distill it down to even more basic level beyond like the
Yep.
profile of a farm and ranch broker, and to say, what I realized in my early on professional career as a GIS specialist was
Yeah.
that there are a tremendous amount of people in professional settings that have to have maps to do their job effectively.
Mm.
And the vast majority of these people do not have any formal training in GIS. They have no interest in getting formal training in GIS. And what typically would occur is the company that they work for would buy them an Esri license or Delorme or Map Info, a really technical GIS
Mhm.
application that they had no chance at ever learning or ever utilizing. So that's where it originally dawned on me was, look, there's a huge swath of professionals that have to have maps, and there's really no easy to use mapping application focused on what they're doing that allows them to not only produce a map in a timely manner, but to have it look professional. I can't tell you in the early on days how many times I would come across people that would say, I spent about 8 to 12 hours making a map, and I'll screenshot it out of Google, and then I'll go
Right.
and bring it into Paint, and at the end it looks like my 8-year-old made the map. And so they spend a whole day making the map, and and the end result is something that they're slightly embarrassed to present in a professional setting. So
Right.
that's what we want to do. So we want to make it accessible and professional
Right.
for these types of folks. And my passion for real estate has allowed us to focus into that specific genre.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. That just the value you provide, right? You allow the demographic, these profiles, the ability to not only present their properties, whether they're selling or representing, and that's really a huge value add and benefit. You know what? I think that our listeners or attendees might love to see in the platform. Would you be willing to maybe walk around, show us some of the highlights, show some areas within your platform that could be pretty exciting for the attendees?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
It looks like I need a setting. Oh, there we go. Cool.
Okay. Excellent. You good?
I'm good now. I can share. So I'll just do a quick, like, simple demo as to what land ID is, and then I'll show you some eye candy maps of end results that people can create. So at a very basic level, we are once again a mobile and web mapping application, so they're synced together. And I'll start off this little quick demo on our mobile app on my phone, and you can see that when we log into Land ID, it's going to zoom in. It's going to show us in real time, so you can see that blue pulsing dot there is me, and we can see all of the property information. I'm going to go up to the top of the screen. I'm going to tap on search by address. And here we can search for a town, a county, and address, obviously. On the website, we have even more advanced searches, and we're working on getting parity there with web and mobile, where we can actually plug in a person's name or a parcel ID, and it'll go find all of the properties that that person owns within a county or counties.
Mhm.
But very basic level, we cruise around and we're seeing property boundaries, owner names. We can tap into a property, and really quickly, within a minute or two, we can learn a lot about that property, well beyond who owns it and how much do they pay in taxes. Much more comprehensive. So I think in real estate, a lot of times the valuation or the appeal of a property not only is what are the amenities, what are the improvements, what are the natural assets on the property, but
Mm.
what is going on around that property that can affect its appeal too. So how close is the favorite restaurant? How close is the walking trails, the golf course that you go to? All that good stuff. So that's what we focus on, is to say, not only do we want to give you a comprehensive overview of the property itself, but we want to show you what's going on around that property to really give you the full picture. So you can see when I tap on a property, I get this little property info card. And we have these little tabs up at the top. So you can see up in the top right above Richard's name, we are on parcel overview. We have three major categories there: land information, parcel and tax information, and then building information will give you details on improvements. The parcel and tax information, that'll give you information on taxes, but if we have sales information, mortgage information will also provide that. And then the land information is going to give us acreage, land use type, the county it's in, parcel ID, all of that good stuff. Now, if I zoom out here, this is where we start to differentiate ourselves from other applications that can be property specific or parcel specific only. And in that, I mean, you tap on a property, it gives you, the name and what do they pay in taxes. So I can go over to water now. And what I've done is I've changed the theme of the map, and I'm looking at all the surface water, the FEMA floodplain, the wetlands, and it's easy for me to tap on the map, and it's going to show me exactly that information about those layers. Where I tap, so you can see we're in an X value FEMA floodplain, and we're in
Mhm.
a freshwater emergent wetland. If I keep going, here are our outdoors. So this is going to give us contours, and you can see as I move out, we're right in a basin, and the Teton National Forest is right over here. So once again, I tap and I see that the Teton National Forest is over there. If I go to boundaries, this is giving us land use types. I could turn on city limits, school information, opportunity zones, zip code boundaries. If we get into more farming, it's the PLSS, conservation easements, the FSA CLU. Here's one of my favorite ones is soil. So, wherever you're standing, this is like a cool party trick. Wherever you're standing, you can tell people, tap on the soil layer. You can tell people what soil you're standing on anywhere in the US. So it's really cool to have that spatial context of where you are in real time on this application. Unfortunately, I am not in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, so you do not see me on this property. Maybe someday I'll have a place there. And if I go to infrastructure, and here we're concentrating on a lot of renewable resource information, so substations, transmission lines, oil wells, and then transportation, railroads, airports, solar farms, wind farms.
Mhm.
And finally, in nearby, we're going back and we're looking at Fed states, any active housing developments from the top 350 home builders across the US and points of interest. So you can see that, it's very easy for us to tap on any property and see a really rich amount of data that goes well beyond who owns it and what's the acreage. We can see what are the positives, what are the negatives, what are things that we want to look out for. So, we go back and we look at the water, we can see we have floodplain and we have wetlands. Those are things that are important if we're going to think about assessing and valuing a property, and certainly if we're a prospective buyer and thinking about purchasing a property. Now, if I go back to this parcel overview card, I have 3 buttons below Richard's name. I have create map, directions, and waypoints. So on our very basic level, we have a discover plan. It's very, very affordable. And this is what I'm demoing right now. It just allows you to cruise around and access all that great data. And we can add waypoints to our discover maps, kind of like favoriting. I can also hit directions. This will give us turn by turn instruction or directions out to the property. And what's great is it works off of latitude, longitude. It doesn't work off of addresses, because in rural areas, addresses may not even exist, or they might take you to the wrong property three houses down. That's not something you want to do. So we rely on latitude, longitude to take you to the right place. And then the other great thing is we have that create map option. So very easy for us to get into a pro level map creation from our Discover map. We're just going to hit create, and now we've created our pro level map. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is synced with the web version of Land ID. So this is the web version of this account, and as soon as I refresh my dashboard, we're going to see that map I just created on my phone right there. And
Cool.
yeah, forgive me. It logged me into my own personal account. Let me go back. I got Zoom. So this is the map that I just created on my phone. And if I pull that up right there, we can continue to build our map. We can continue to add details to the map. And that's really important for our user types, the professionals, because it doesn't matter if they're on the go, they're out in their car, they're out on site, or if they're back in the office. They're able to have a continuous stream of productivity and build that map either on a mobile device or on their computer, and not lose any momentum they have in finishing that project. Same process over here. So now that I've created that map, I can access the property cards. I can go to my base map. So here we can utilize the Mapbox Explorer background layer. That's one of the newer base maps that we've added, and we're really thrilled with that. It's a really cool background option. We have different aerials to choose from. We even have a specialized infrared aerial that'll hopefully show up eventually. That's interesting. Let's see if the USGS topo shows up. It never fails. As soon as I go in front of people, things stop working.
Steve,
And then our overlays are right there. So we have the ability to then create a print map, share this as an interactive map. And if you want, I can show you, like I said, some eye candy of finished products that people are actually using.
Yeah, while you're showing that, I mean, you're obviously incredibly passionate, and I think this demo could probably be, an hour or two. I love it. I think what's really important, it's probably a question that a lot of our listeners are thinking is, how did when you built this 10 years ago, how did you get started? How did you determine what technology, what vendors in the space were ones that had the capabilities? How did you, of course, this is a plug for Mapbox, but how did you decide on Mapbox? What's that path? Because we find that a number of our developers are starting out, and they're determined, how do we make this user friendly? I want to work with something that is robust, highly performant, easy, and affordable, right? So how did you tell us a little bit? And we probably want to keep rolling along, but I think that would be valuable to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. So, from my background as a GIS specialist, I've used pretty much every GIS application under the sun in some form or fashion over the years. And certainly in 2014, the concept of interactive maps, web-based, mobile-based maps, that was a really new concept. And it was something that you have those moments where it's like, light bulb eureka moment. And for me, it was when we saw the share map experience through Mapbox. I'd never seen anything like that before, and I thought that was revolutionary. And I always thought that that was ever since I saw that was the future of mapping. So I firmly believe that the future of mapping is more on interactive. I mean, print maps have their place for sure, but this experience right here, where one can go into 3D, can experience the photos,
Mm,
notes, write-ups. We can, view soil reports. What we can do is we can turn what used to be 20 pages of static PDF maps into one interactive map experience with multimedia. Um, Mapbox was always, to me, on the very cutting edge of that. And really, they still, in my opinion, are top of the list as to pioneers in that genre. And so to me, that's where the future of mapping is, and that's where we want to be. We want to always be on the cutting edge, but we want to deliver cutting edge technology in an easy way to consume. And so Mapbox has been really good at that, and really flexible. Another big consideration for me was the ability to control the presentation and the aesthetic values of all of these overlays. So, parcel data, the surface water, we have over 40 different overlays that we can turn on, and we give access to our users. And that can be part of our branding, right? So, as I mentioned at the beginning, when a user makes a map out of Land ID, really the original purpose was to make it look like I made the map. And so all of these overlays over here, they've been designed by myself and our design team, and it becomes a branding opportunity for us, where we hope that when people see a map and we have these overlays, it immediately resonates that it's a Land ID map. So having that control over the overlays and being able to customize that was also a huge deal. Being able to tile in these data sets and then have full artistic control was one of the biggest factors for me.
that's amazing. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful application. Could you tell us a little bit about where you're going? I mean, I know you guys, you've always been pretty much on the forefront. And love to hear, where is Land ID going? What are you working on next? Are there other areas, other capabilities and features? Love to hear more about that.
Yes, so we're always working on new capabilities and new features. It's you know it we're on the opposite side of the spectrum of we're out of ideas. We have too many ideas on our side, and it can be frustrating to have to sit and wait to get through all of them in an orderly fashion. I would consider Land ID to be 25 to 30% done. We still have so much to do. And what we want to do is we want to continue to expand the utility of the platform. So things like CarPlay will come into to use. It's just one more avenue for our users to take advantage of Land ID and use it in presentation and um, uh, hopefully make them look good. That's our goal. We want our users to look good and to appreciate hopefully what Land ID is delivering and make them look really smart. The other thing that we want to focus on is to continue to expand our data and continue to make that easier and easier for people to consume. So, to go beyond just a visualization of this data, but to start to summarize it in the property card for folks. And then, also on the advanced side, just to start to allow real-time collaboration between accounts for building maps and team collaboration. So we have a ton to do. That's just a handful out of the 10,000 things we want to get done.
And I think when we were talking, there's plans to expand outside of the US. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's
We
the
look at our mapping application as a global application, and we actually have people utilizing it all over the globe already. We don't actively pursue those folks, but We appreciate their business, and we do think that we will be expanding certainly outside of the U.S. Right now, we continue to focus on the United States, but for us, it's it's just a matter of time, and um, it comes down to what are the data resources that we can access and then utilize and then display in a spatial context, in the mapping context, to expand into those other countries. So that goes into the 10,000 things we want to get done, Andy, is
Yeah,
certainly expand into other countries and hopefully provide the value that we're providing to our folks in the United States out to other people in other countries.
that is, that's incredible. Uh, so I have one last question, and I think this really is based on and kind of revolves around how to get started. As 10 years in the industry, just with Land ID, previously known as MapRight, help us understand just how do you get started? I mean, choosing a tech platform and finding a niche, and just it doesn't have to be a long story, but just give a little, maybe it's kind of advice to the audience.
Sure. Oof, man, I
Yeah,
would say that
a loaded question.
well, there's certainly luck involved, but I would say that with the context of um, being prepared to take advantage of luck is a big component of our success. So we've always been prepared to take advantage of opportunities as they've come along. When I got started, um, I would think that this is a classic case of I created probably 20 different businesses before I ever came up with the idea of Land ID. But I don't think I would have ever come up with the idea of Land ID if I hadn't have tried those 20 other things. So,
Hmm.
I had been at it for 7 years, and as a GIS professional for a decade before we started Land ID. And during that time, I learned a tremendous amount about what were the pain points of these folks, and so I guess like things that I identify as opportunities is if if you're interested in a segment of users and you're thinking about addressing those pain points, fragmentation can be a something to look for. And by that I mean when I would first talk to people that now use Land ID, they would tell me they're using 3 or 4 different applications that weren't designed for making maps for real estate, to end up making a map that they were slightly embarrassed about, right? So that
Right,
fragmentation and using applications that were never designed for that. If industries are
yeah,
doing that, that means that they're not being well served, and that's an
right,
opportunity for you to consolidate all of that into one place. And at a very basic level, what you have to do is you have to produce an application that is faster, more efficient than what they're currently doing, and produces a better end result. Like if you boil it all down to that, that's the magic recipe. Produce something that is faster, more cohesive, and produces a better
mhm,
end result. And what you look for is that fragmentation and that I want to say that maybe it's an exaggeration, but I don't think it's too much to say embarrassment from a final product for your
sure,
potential
sure.
clients.
Right, right. That's great. Well, our audience has been sending in some questions, so why don't we field some of these questions, Steve? I mean, one that I think is very relevant and interesting is, what is your tech stack from front end to back end? And if you're okay sharing that, it's like, and in addition to that, what Mapbox products are you using? Okay, so
Yeah,
just that, yeah,
good question,
make it.
Jason.
Thanks.
Um,
Go ahead.
yeah, Andy, I'm happy to answer that the best I can.
Absolutely.
Jason, I'm not the most technically savvy person, so what I can tell you I'll do my best to answer this question. So we use a lot of components of Mapbox. So we use Mapbox GLG JS. We use the SDKs on mobile. We use Studio tiling, and that's what all of these overlays you see over there is. Then on static images, we use a component of the imagery and the outdoor and the street layer. And we use geocoding for our search functionality. We have historically been on Ruby on Rails. I think there's a component of that. I don't, that's basically a catchphrase to me. I'm not sure what that really means. Keep in mind, I'm not a coder. I can't write a single line of code. My talent, Jason, is I, um, I have convinced people much smarter than me to join me on this venture, and I'm in the privileged place of just telling them cool ideas, and they make it happen, and I look really good when I'm presenting it to you all.
That's incredible. Very cool. Let's see. Steve, you're probably looking at a few of these questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to go through them, Andy. So Michael's asking, does Land ID offer an API for extracting property information and
Yep.
maps? Michael, that goes into our 10,000 things we want to do for Land ID is produce an API. We are developing the basic elements of it right now. We don't have anything like that exists. We have taken the approach to focus on putting everything in our application and focusing on that user that needs to access it within Land ID. I think eventually we will have an API, but I don't have a timeline on that right now. And then Marcus has a question: are there any subsurface data sets, mineral ownership, or oil and gas production? Marcus, we have oil wells in Texas. We have pipeline data. I know we're going to be expanding that into other states in the near future. We always continue to add more data, but we want it to be relevant. We don't want fluff in there. And then on your comment on mineral ownership, Marcus, if I wish I could map out mineral ownership, I would invite you to one of my Caribbean islands if we had that mapped out.
Uh, a question that I think really speaks to the unique value proposition of Mapbox in comparison to some of the larger vendors is the question was asking about data, right? Does Mapbox provide these data layers? Does Land ID bring their data to the Mapbox platform? So could you help us understand that? Because I think that really hits on one of the top value props of Mapbox.
Yeah, so we used a tremendous amount of the Mapbox base data. So once again, where that shows up is in the outdoor space layer, the streets layer, even our aerials, what you see on the roads, the places of interest, all of that. That's coming from Mapbox. All of the overlays over here, these are things that we have curated and produced and then synthesized and styled. But the whole aspect of bringing in the data, we tile it, and then in studio we then design it out. And for me, I'm much more focused on the aesthetics of the maps than I am a data nerd, so to speak. So that was very, very important to me to have that flexibility once again to essentially take the data that we are producing and have the artistic freedom and the capability to produce compelling layers that end up being signature branding for Land ID. So it's a mixture, Andy. But I would say on the most important side, it is knowing that we have open-ended capabilities to bring in almost any data set that we find in the wild, and then to be able to present that in the way that we want to through Mapbox, tile set hosting, and through Studio.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. Got a few more
Okay.
questions. I think we've got room or time for maybe one or two more.
Sure. So we plan to go across the globe. The question is, do we plan to extend into India and UAE? Yeah, eventually. I would say that where the company's at right now has already surpassed my wildest dreams, and I'm excited to see how far it goes. So I would love to tell you that why not Mars eventually? Earth is too small. So yeah, India and UAE for sure. And let's go to other
That's the
planets.
Mars.
Let's see how far it goes. And then I guess the last question I see, are users able to import custom data sets? That's a fantastic question. They are able to, and they're dynamic layers, so they can't be a tremendously large data set that has to be tiled in. That is something that we're also very interested in focusing on in the future, is allowing people. We find that the magic occurs when we allow people to combine their own proprietary data sets with the data sets that we're providing so that they can have better insights into their projects. That is something that they can do on a small level right now, but we plan in the long term for them to bring in tremendously large data sets and to be able to pair them with our data sets.
That's very cool. The flexibility you have. One question, I think maybe this is our last question, is regarding just using land ID within the urban environments, right? A
Mhm.
lot of residential commercial tends to be in the urban areas, right? So help us understand, is that a current use case for customers?
Yeah, for us, it becomes a map proposition when you get into more urban areas and smaller properties, where the
Yeah,
map can become more about the amenities around that property that justify its price. And
yeah,
so here's a good example of a property that's in a really nice neighborhood in Austin, Texas, and it's right here. And what you're able to show is that proximity to the park, to the Western Hills Athletic Club, to Trader Joe's, to all the retail areas. And another great story we have is there was a 1 acre property for sale out in Big Sky, Montana, and multi-million-dollar property was just 1 acre, but it was in a really high-end amenities neighborhood, and it sat on the market for about 2 years. And so I want you to think about this context. It sat on the market from 2020 to 2022. That is when the market was on fire, right? Everywhere. Interest rates were 3%. Everybody was moving out to the country. Sat on the market for about 2 years. We worked with that agent, and one of the big components was it was a ski in, ski out property. So what we were able to do was he was able to take the Land ID mobile app, utilize our tracking tool, and he was able to walk the pathways for skiing and ski out, and show exactly where does one ski in and where does one to ski out to the property, and how do they get down to the montage and have a nice drink after they're done skiing. And within 2 months of that map being produced and marketed on that property was sold. Now, I'm not here to tell you that map was the sole reason that property sold. But if that agent was here today, he would tell you without a doubt it was a major factor in the being effective in telling the story about why that property was so special. You can see here, on commercial real estate, one of our really popular functions is the ability to overlay surveys and site plans on the map. So any survey and site plan, we allow people to overlay. And so this gives people spatial context for an office park that's being developed. And what's really cool is those images, they show up on the mobile app. So when you go out there, you can see yourself walking in real time on your survey or site plan. Here's another example where we have zoning drawn in and proposed in and out access to build a commercial element. So yeah, we're very happy to see the adoption of Land ID into those more conventional real estate applications.
Mhm.
And our intention is to continue to build out data that is both relevant to our existing subscribers, as well as these users too that are more urban, to build more data that's relevant to them. And so that is a big part of what we want to do. We want to continue to expand into the different genres of real estate beyond just farm and ranch and land.
Wow, amazing. This is one of the coolest apps I've seen, Steve. So,
I
uh,
appreciate that, Andy. Your check is in the mail.
we are at time. So, I want to thank everyone for joining today. The recording will be shared and sent out to everyone. So, Steve, you are amazing. Thank you so much. And I wish we had another hour to go deeper and to answer all the questions. But we so value this partnership and are looking forward to good things, exciting things together in the future. So have a great day, everyone, and thank you again for joining us, and look for additional sessions. We have so many more coming up. So all the best, everyone.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.